involved with the One Big Game charity was a no-brainer really, because I've been involved as music supervisor for Chime and the Winter Project, which has recently come out. So when Rude and Martin asked me to get involved with One Big Soundtrack, it was an instant yes, because it's a great cause and it sounded like a really interesting project to be involved in, with so many different composers with different styles getting on one soundtrack. I think the nature of asking so many different composers to do something inevitably creates the variety that I think works for this soundtrack. It's pretty eclectic. It doesn't flow like an album from one composer or from one soundtrack, let's say, for a game or for a film. It's completely varied, and for me that's an interesting thing. I think it benefits from that because it gives you a snapshot of today, 2011, of what lots of different respected composers are doing at the moment, which makes it pretty cool, I think. I think one of the composers on the soundtrack, although this is a difficult question, but one of the composers I would highlight who's doing really cool stuff at the moment would be Jason Graves. I really like the aleatoric style of his Dead Space soundtracks and this almost stream of consciousness feel they have, which is sort of similar to how I work, and I guess I do similar things to him, although he focuses a lot on the use of orchestra. I try and achieve similar effects sonically, but with a mix of different sounds, instruments, almost like Foley meeting music. So I really like how he's created those soundscapes for those two games in particular. So yeah, he's doing great stuff at the moment. The track I gave to the album is called The Death of My Beautiful Spaceship, and it is a quite a atmospheric, cerebral track that has had a few life cycles. I've worked on it for a while in different forms because I sort of like the sonic textures that go on in the track, and I sort of got to a point and then left it alone for a long time, and then revisited it with the idea of getting a couple of musicians, a viola player and a cello player, to mimic each other and sort of tell the story of the track, the sort of lament, as it were, as your spaceship dies, if you can imagine that. It's quite a dreamy track, and I'm really happy with how it turned out. It's got a unique sound to it, I think, and I think it suits or creates a nice variation on for the rest of the album. You know, there's lots of tracks of different styles, and I think this is one of those tracks. I think if you were going to get technical, you could probably see different styles in production and mix between, say, what goes on in the States and what goes on in Europe. Stylistically, when it comes down to the composers, I think, yeah, I guess sometimes you do hear. I would say I sound quite European in the sonic palette that I use a lot of the time, but that doesn't mean I don't sort of look at ideas that are happening from US composers either. I think it's a big melting pot, and I think one of the nice things about games is that the creative energy amongst the composers is quite eclectic, and you get some interesting styles emerging as a result. I think with regards to how much respect is given to video game music and the composers that work in video games, I think there's a lot of misunderstanding at the amount of effort that goes into making a soundtrack work for a video game, especially on more complicated interactive scores that are like big musical jigsaw puzzles. The level of detail that is often needed to make those scores work is very subtle but very time consuming. The other hard thing about video games, I'd say, if you were going to compare it, say, to film, would be the amount of action music that you have to score in comparison to a normal 90-minute feature. A lot of video games depend quite heavily on the more impactful music, and that being able to write a lot of that in a similar vein for one project is quite difficult to maintain variation and interest. I think there are very valid arguments around what makes someone who specialises in game composition good at his job, because we have to, as I mentioned earlier, do a lot of interactive soundtracks that have to fit certain criteria, and it's not a linear medium, and therefore you have to think a bit differently from doing a film score. I haven't got a problem with other composers from different media coming in and scoring games, and vice versa, to be fair. I think so long as the person is hired for creative reasons, because it's their sound that really works, then it's, for me, a good thing. It's hopefully that creates good work, but I don't think it's an oversaturated industry at all. I think entertainments are oversaturated by its sheer nature, whatever field of entertainment you look at, because so many people would like to do it, and hopefully the people that are good at doing it succeed, and the people that aren't so good go and choose something else to do, which is life. So yeah, I think it's healthy having competition, if you want to call it that, from different industries. It keeps you on your toes, and also gives us other areas to look into as well. So it's not a problem in my opinion. Things are great at the moment in general, aside from the One Big Game soundtrack. I'm just finishing off the Secret World soundtrack, which I'm really proud of, and is a really creative project to have been part of. And there's a bit of time left on that. And very soon Driver San Francisco's coming out, which I did the score for, and collaborated with a well-known artist on reinterpreting my theme. And I have a film coming out towards the end of the year, I believe. It's all finished, so I'm just waiting for the release date. And I've got my first Hollywood feature, which starts end of this year, or beginning of next year, which I'm really excited about, and is my first foray into that world, so I'll see how it goes. And several exciting game projects bubbling on the horizon, which I'm really enthusiastic about. So yeah, things are really exciting at the moment, and I can't grumble.